AI generated vlogs are exploding right now.
Hey everybody, Sam here. Today we're heading into some really deep woods.
We're talking brand new accounts hitting hundreds of thousands of followers in just days. In this video, I'll show you how we built an AI system that creates viral Bigfoot style vlogs using nothing but Veo 3, Claude Sonnet, and n8n. You just give it a topic and it automatically generates the script, the prompts, and even the final video scenes ready to post. The Veo 3 Gold Rush has just started. And with this system, you'll have everything you need to ride the wave and start cranking out content at scale. All right, let's jump in. All right, and now we're into the demo of this automation of creating full Bigfoot vlog style content, totally automatically, just off of an idea. In this section of the video, we're going to run through a quick high-level demo showing how this automation works. And then in the next section of the video, we're going to break down every single node, the prompting behind it, and exactly how it was built and works. So we're going to get started by executing the workflow. Then you're going to see all we need to create a full Bigfoot scene style vlog is just a simple idea. So here we're putting Bigfoot discovers a World War II plane crash while on a hike through the deep forest that he hasn't explored yet. And now this automation is going to handle generating a full narrative with 8 different scenes in the vlog. So first, that idea gets passed off to this narrative writer who is going to be tasked with writing the 8 different scenes of this vlog according to the idea we inputted. And the scene director is actually going to take those ideas and put them into formulaic prompts that we can feed into the Veo 3 video generation model. Now, once it's finished with these steps, we're going to include a human in the loop process, which is going to show all 8 scenes in Slack, and we can improve or ask it to edit the scenes depending on how we want the larger piece to come out. So we can see that's done here. So we'll jump into Slack and we'll go up to content and we can see here, okay, finding deep history in the woods. Sam the Bigfoot grins excitedly into his selfie stick. Hey everybody, Sam here. Today we're heading deep into parts of the forest I've never explored before. Who knows what stuff we'll find? Scene 2. Sam trudges through thick underbrush. And so you get that idea. Now as a human in the loops, we can approve or decline this script. Once we approve it, we can jump back into n8n and it's going to jump into this generate video section where now, based on what the scene director gave it, it's going to generate video clips for every 8 pieces of that larger script that we created. It will loop through these and ultimately dump them into a Google Drive folder with all 8 clips that we need for our larger Bigfoot vlog. Okay, so once it is looped through all 8 scenes and generated them with the FAL API, it will leave all 8 scenes in this Google Drive folder. And so we can drill it and see.
Hey everybody, Sam here. Today we're heading into some really deep woods I've never explored before.
And it worked. And we have all the scenes that we need that we can stitch together to create a full Bigfoot style vlog. Now, a couple things to note. The cost on this is fairly expensive. Using the FAL API essentially means it costs $6 to generate one of those clips. So very quickly that can become cost prohibitive. But if you do want to use the prompting and this automation to create large, 8 scene scripts, you can disconnect this step and just essentially paste the final prompts that the scene director gives you within Google's Flow. And you can see we've done that here. It's much cheaper to generate clips within Flow. We have another video breaking down exactly how to do this and how to build these prompts if you want to view it. But that's it. So this automation is a little bit expensive. All these costs are going to come down over time, but you can still use it to generate scripts and the prompts for Veo 3. Last thing before we jump into the technical breakdown of all the nodes in this flow, I want to let you guys know that you can download this free n8n template in our school community, AI Automation Mastery, for free. We share a whole bunch of tips and tricks. We have a bunch of people building automations in n8n in this community, and you can get everything you need for free. So join it and we'll see you there.
All right, let's get started here going node by node through this entire automation so you guys can learn exactly what you need to change and tweak on this template to make your own videos at scale. The first node that we have to kick everything off is going to be this form trigger we have set up here with a very simple text input. That's going to be our Bigfoot video idea at a really high level without too much detail. So looking at this past example, all we have here is this input of Bigfoot discovers a World War II plane crash while on a hike through the deep forest that he hasn't explored yet. That's all we need. We don't need to get too deep into prompt engineering or do anything too crazy yet to kickstart this video creation process. After that's inputted, what we're going to do is pass that off to the next LLM call, which is going to be our narrative writer. Really, the high-level goal of this is to take that simple idea input and build it out into a structured outline of what this video is going to cover. So let's look at an example here of the output. If I go to the JSON tab, or no, I'll go to the table actually, and we can see that we have scenes 0 through 7 here, actually for a total of 8 scenes, that really is going to take that idea we provided before and break it down into 8-second clips, just because of the limitation we face right now with Veo 3 API usage and what Veo 3 is capable of. So that's the constraint we're operating under, and so our narrative writer has to take that idea, break out 8-second video clips so we can go forward building together a cohesive story. Let's look at the prompt a little bit so you can get a better understanding of everything happening here. Like most other prompts that we've covered in the past, we're going to give it a role and we're going to set up the task and goal that the prompt is trying to accomplish. So for the role, you are a creative video director specializing in short-form, character-driven video content, and the goal here is to generate a storyboard outline, much like a real storyboard artist would, for a short vlog based on a user-provided concept. This output must strictly adhere to the persona, creative mandate, and output specification defined below. So once that's done, we're going to use these triple dashes here to split up each of those sections we need to build out. So the first thing we're setting up here is going to be the persona of our vlogger. For our case, since we're trying to make these Bigfoot videos, we've defined this Sam the Bigfoot vlogger persona that we want to be consistent across each of the 8 clips that we're generating for this full video. So we're going to give him this identity. So he's a gentle giant, he's clumsy, he's friendly, he's goofy, endlessly curious. Detailing that all here, we're going to expand a little bit more on the voice and tone that he's going to talk for any dialogue elements that he has throughout the story. And we're going to define his physical traits. This is something that's really important, especially since we're dividing up these videos into 8-second clips. We need to get as specific as possible here. We can probably even expand on this even further in our own prompt, but we really need to get as specific as possible in order to get a consistent character across the whole, each of the 8-second clips that we're generating. So he's an 8-foot male with shaggy cedar brown fur. We're actually giving a hex color code here and faint moss specks. His silhouette is a soft huggable due to fluffy fur on his cheeks and shoulders, and we're getting even more and more into his physical details. Really important to experiment with this as you're generating early iterations of your video so you can get this as consistent as possible. Next up, as we referenced up toward the top, is going to be our creative mandate, where we're defining a narrative goal and a visual style that's going to exist across each of these key scenes in our video that we're building out. So we're giving it an aspect ratio. It's going to be filmed from a selfie stick always. The selfie stick is going to be facing towards Bigfoot, and it's going to be kind of a shaky camera that is set up to feel more authentic versus a super overproduced camera that's tracking him throughout the scene. Going forward, we have then our output specification. Like I mentioned above and before, what we're going to do is split this up into 8 sequential scenes to build a full narrative. The first one is always going to be the introduction to the vlog, where Sam the Bigfoot introduces himself and kind of states the goal of what's going to be happening inside that video. Every single scene we're building is going to be 8 seconds long, and the content per scene is going to be a single descriptive paragraph of what is happening, what Sam the Bigfoot's doing, and any dialogue lines that he is going to be speaking. And so by the end of this, we're going to have, if I jump over to the output here, we have this narrative paragraph built up that's going to be describing what's happening and any lines that he is going to be saying in that 8-second clip. So Here's an example for scene 2 here. So Sam trudges through the dense underbrush, the camera bobbing slightly with each massive step. Branches catch in his cedar brown fur as he pushes through, his expression focused but cheerful. Man, this part of the woods is thick. Haven't seen any trails out here, just the way I like it. You never know what you're going to find when you get off the beaten path. So, quick dialogue line, quick action that he's taking as we compose together these 8 scenes for our vlog. Let's go forward. The other important part I want to call out here is going to be the examples that we provide as part of this prompt. Really important to provide these, as it is able to tell the LLM exactly what you're looking for and gives the LLM a better idea of the level of detail you're looking for in each of your prompts. And so if you're having trouble getting, consistent output or the level of detail to match what you're expecting, I would highly suggest building out some of these manually and then providing them here in the example format section. So finally, what we do after all of that is built out is we're going to set the task. So using all the rules above, create the storyboard outline for the following concept, and we're going to pass in our idea here, the Bigfoot idea here from our form, where he's discovering that World War II plane. So now that we finished up with the narrative writer prompt and we have our scenes outputted here, what we're going to do is take that output, split out each scene into its own item, and then run the scene director prompt 8 times for those items so we can get a full prompt that we're going to pass off then to the Veo 3 API to get our final video. This scene director prompt is a bit more detailed and is going to allow us to build out a more prompt-worthy, super specific output that's going to give us a great video. So let's look at an example here before we get too far into it. So I'll pull this up. Let's look at, scene number 2 here. And we can see that we have scene 2 with our timestamps selected. It's going to be the deep forest push scene. And we have our outline here of Sam trudging through the dense underbrush. Alongside that, we're going to get really into detail with more details of the scene description, technical specs such as what's the duration, what's the FPS it's being filmed at, what type of lens it's actually being filmed at, and what does the movement of the camera look like from the Sam, the Bigfoot's selfie stick. We're then going to expand on the subject details. This is our core character, Sam the Bigfoot, and we want to lock this across every single scene we're building, so it's going to be as consistent as possible. And so we're taking those details we defined earlier, making sure that's in every single prompt we're generating that's eventually going to be passed off to Veo 3, and making sure this is as consistent as possible. Again, this is going to be the section where we really want the most details as possible. We're going to expand on camera motion through different timestamps throughout the scene. We're going to provide our lighting. We're going to provide some atmosphere sound effects. We're going to give some background audio, and we're going to detail the dialogue he's going to be speaking at a certain timestamp actually within the scene. Finally, we're going to define what the end frame looks like for this 8-second clip so we know exactly how to transition this scene into the next one. So that's the output we're going for here on this prompt. Let's jump back into the scene director prompt so we can see a little bit how that's made possible. Much like the other prompt, again, at the very top, we're going to be setting up the role and the goal or the task that this LLM is going to be doing here for our scene director. And so you are an expert scene director for a YouTube video series. Your sole function is to take a simple scene brief. And so if I scroll down here, I'll show you what that looks like. So our title, our concept, the scene number, and the output from the previous narrative writer. And so we're taking the output of one of these into here to build out our brief. And then we're going to add in other details like the duration and the timestamp range in the scope of the full video we're trying to create. So we're taking in all of that, and we want to expand it into a detailed production-ready video script. You must strictly adhere to the character Bible, series style guide, and output template provided below. So this is a very similar structure to what we built before, but we're going to be even expanding on details further than what we did with the narrative writer. So let's start here with the series Bible. So we define this as the non-negotiable source of truth for the series character and style. So starting here again, much like the persona we defined before, this is going to be the Bible and the source of truth for Sam the Bigfoot. So we have his identity, we have the vibe that we're going through throughout every single video clip we're generating. We have the voice and tone we want to provide, his core physical traits, and what he's doing with his face and hands throughout the video. once again, I'll just reiterate this, as much detail here that you can provide, the better it's going to be. So get specific, and that's going to help a lot with getting your characters more consistent through each generation you make with Veo 3. Let's go forward a little bit more. Next is going to be our series style guide. The primary directive we're defining here is that every scene must create audience affection for Sam by showcasing his charm, gentle humor, or vulnerability. This is, again, building up into the narrative we want to provide for every single one of these videos, where Sam is this lovable, curious Bigfoot character. Very important to emphasize this, and we're even repeating this information in our prompting multiple times. We're going to showcase the camera angle and how it's going to be. It's going to be this 16:9 aspect ratio, always filmed from a selfie stick. We don't want it to be point of view. And we're going to get more into some of the technical specs, like the scene duration, the visual style, what the resolution and frame rate is going to look like, and at the bottom here, trying to prompt against some of those Veo 3 artifacts from actually appearing in the final output video. So I mentioned that here, and then I have these all bolded sentences where we're trying to get those extra subtitles excluded that you may have seen before in some of the Veo 3 generated videos. This doesn't work 100% of the time, but I have found that including this does reduce the number of mishaps or weird glitchy subtitles you'll sometimes see. Let's go forward here next and into this output template section that we defined. And so if you remember from before, our output for one of these scenes is going to be consistent across all of these. That's where the output template really comes into play, so we can make sure that we're always seeing the technical specs, the scene description, and the core components of this, like the subject to details. That goes to further help with character consistency and making sure that each of these 8-second clips come together into a cohesive story. So going back here, let's take a look at that template. And as we can see here, we have everything stubbed out that's going to be required for the AI to fill in when we actually make this LLM call. So scene description, technical specs, the required subject to details we're trying to lock, motion, lighting, atmosphere, sound effects, and the ending frame. All that's going to be provided. Expanding on that further are going to be a couple of examples we've done from previous prompts, just going back and forth with ChatGPT. And so in a previous video, we had Sam building a tree trunk gym. And so this is a full built out scene description we think is really high quality. And again, passing in these examples really will help make the output quality from the LLM much better. So highly encourage you to either chat back and forth with an LLM to get your scene example into a spot you like it, and so you can further guide the LLM for future videos. And so we have two examples here. The other one is a trail walk over to the lake. And again, we can see the level of detail that goes into filling out this template. Finally here, we pass in the scene brief like what we covered before, and that's going to include all of those necessary details once again. Big thing is the scene narrative and the technical specs of what is happening in that scene and the timestamp it's happening on. So now that our prompt for the scene director has been ran 8 times for every section of the narrative we've previously built out, we're able to clean up some of this data here and then pass it on to section number 2, which is going to be getting human approval on the narrative and script that has been built out. The reason we do this is really due to the cost of using the FAL AI API right now, especially with the Veo 3 model. It's pretty expensive for generating video, and for this video we're making right now, it's going to cost us right around $48 to make it from start to finish. So we add this human in the loop process here using Slack so that we can make sure we're confident in the script getting built out before we send it off to the API and eat up a bunch of our budget. Highly recommend you do something similar for video generation where the cost of the API credits is right now. So how we set this up in Slack is pretty simple. What we do is use the send narrative message to actually send the details of what needs to get approved or denied. So looking here, we have our title, we have the concept of the video, and we have a full breakdown of the 8 scenes that were generated by the narrative writer. This gives us a good outline that we need to review and gives us a chance to see if there's anything we dislike about it and what to reject before going forward. If everything does look good, we can click on approve, and that is going to continue on with the rest of this automation and eventually go into this generate video step. How we set up this approve and reject button is also pretty simple. All that's needed here is the send and wait node. see if we can pull it up in Slack. So we'll get a Slack node, look for send a message and wait for a response in order to configure this. So I already have this here. Let's look at some of the options to build this yourself. So you will need your Slack credentials connected. I won't go through that in this video, but that is a prerequisite to setting this up. Resource should be a message, and operation should be send and wait for a response. That'll be set by default if you pull that out from the sidebar on the right-hand node side. You want to send a message either to a channel or to a user, specify who that's going to, and then actually build out the text for that message itself. Like what we covered here before, it's saying please approve or deny the above story in order to proceed with the video. So we have that set up. And then under type of approval here, we have this option, and that is going to specify, let me delete this so you guys can see it. We can do approval options and set approver and disapprove, and then leave the rest as default here. That's going to give us our approve button or decline button, just like we saw on this example message. So if I hit decline, that's going to stop the execution of this workflow and prevent us from eating up a bunch of API credits on a bad video. If I hit approve, that's going to go forward with the rest of the nodes and proceed into step 3 here to generate the video. Before we get there, we're doing a quick set field node to clean up this array of all of the prompts we've built out. And then we're going to split those prompts out again. And so we can iterate over each scene and generate those videos one by one. So now that we've generated the prompts and the scripts for each of the 8 scenes we need for a full video, it's time to move into step 3, which is our final step of generating the full video itself. The way we approach this is going to be starting off with this loop node that you see here that takes each of those 8 scripts, splits them up into batches, and processes them one by one. So for each of the 8 scenes, we're going to go into this loop and see all of these highlighted nodes here that run one by one, processing one video clip at a time. So we're not generating all 8 clips at once. We're going to loop over this and iteratively build up each clip we need for the final video. The service we use to actually build and render this video using Veo 3 is called FAL.ai. This is a service that hosts a bunch of different AI models, including Veo 3, but you can do other stuff like using other video gen models or image gen models. But let's jump back here into the API tab here for Veo 3 so you guys can see how we can approach consuming this API. The first thing that happens here is I'm just going to use a quick set field prompt to get the current prompt we want to evaluate for this iteration of the loop. This is important because it gives us an easy way to access this and further nodes later down in the chain. Because as you remember, all of this is just happening for one script at a time. And so I like to be able to reference back the current prompt and the current script we're trying to generate by having this node right here. After that's done, the first API request we're going to be making is into this queue endpoint on fal.run. It's, queue.fal.run. This is the endpoint specifically for Veo 3. So it's under FAL AI /Veo 3, meaning we're going to use their hosted Veo 3 model. And that is going to be what we pass in to trigger. It's going to be the endpoint we use to trigger the generation of this video. So what we have to do, I'll come back to authentication later, but the main thing we have to do here is send a body here and pass in the prompt we want to do, the aspect ratio of the video, so 16:9 ratio, the duration of the video, which is going to be 8 seconds, and how to generate the audio, and the indicator if that's going to be true or false. Since we have dialogue in our video, that will be true. And then if I open this up, we can see the prompt here is going to be that full detailed breakdown of the scene we want generated. So that's the process to queue up a video generation using FAL AI. So let's come back here and look at the API example so you guys can see where you can look to find other options or tweak this as you see fit. So this is under the FAL AI Veo 3 queue here, and then submitting a request. And so we can see the URL is exactly the same here. We're passing in this prompt, and they're doing an even more minimal example here than what we're doing. We have these extra options here that are specified, which I recommend keeping unless you know what you're doing and need to change yourself. So that's step 1 of the video generation process. Let me quickly talk about how to authenticate this, because if you don't include your authentication credentials or a header value, you're going to get 403 errors against their API. So let's go back to the docs and show you how to approach that. So like I said before, FAL.ai is using header authentication, which we can see here. And so it's an authorization header, that's the name. And then the value is going to be what appears after the colon here. And so the value is key, followed by a space, and then followed by the FAL API key. Let's see if we can actually make a new one here to show you guys what that looks like from start to finish. So I'll go to account, let's go to API keys, and let's go ahead and make a new one. So this will be scope, just leave that as default, test n8n. We're going to create this key and then copy that. Going back into n8n, let's go ahead and clear out what we have here for authentication. So this looks like a brand new node for you when you're setting this up for the first time. As we were talking about before, this is going to be header authentication. And so I would recommend specifying a generic credential type here, open up the next dropdown, and then specify header auth. Let's make a new one. And so open this up. We'll create a new credential. This is going to be FAL API test. And the first thing we have to do here is actually specify what will go in to our name of the header. So we can see here, header, the first part before this colon is going to be the name. So we want authorization. That's good. The next part is going to be the value of the header. That's going to get included on every API request we make that uses this credential. So like I mentioned before, this is going to be key, followed by a space, and then we're going to paste in our API key from earlier. So key, space, paste that in. So we'll save this. And then we're going to be able to use this FAL API key test, FAL API test for future API calls on any other node that is reaching out to the FAL AI API. Really recommend this because this is going to encrypt your credential and API key within n8n instead of, manually specifying a header here, like authorization, and then pasting this in where it can be seen by anybody. So I would recommend approaching all credentials and API keys this way when you're building out your n8n automations. Let's move forward to the next part. This is going to be something called polling, where we continuously check on what the status is of the video generation process happening on FAL AI. We use polling because we're not going to be able to get video back from Veo 3 instantly. Usually it's a several minute process, even to generate an 8-second video. And so what we do is have this loop set up here where we wait 10 seconds. We're going to make an API call to this endpoint on FAL AI, queue.fal.run. We're looking at the Veo 3 model. We're looking at previous requests. And then we're going to pass in this request ID from the other node here to kick things off. So request ID is in the result of this queue process. We can see that it's in the queue. And we're going to check the status here using that same request ID. So we're going to check that, look and see what the value of the status is. We can see that it is completed, and so then we can move forward. If we just started this video generation process and it was not completed, we would see something like in progress here, which tells us this should be false, and we're going to loop back here and continue to wait for that to actually become completed. So this will keep looping until we find that the video process has completed and can eventually branch out here to the true branch. So once that true branch is actually branched out, we're then able to jump into this final node here, which is going to be fetching the result of our generation. This is also covered here under the Veo 3 API docs. So we can see that, like the previous one, we can look at the request status that's covered here. Then finally, when it is successful, we make this final API call, a GET request, to get the details of that full generation. So this looks good. We want to make sure that we're still specifying our FAL API credential. And once this request is successful, we're going to see these details that come back here. So we got our video and this final URL that was provided to us. And so let's load this up and see if we can access it.
Hey everybody, Sam here.
Perfect. So we have a generated video with the script that was provided and returned back to us in the form of this MP4 URL. So we get that. We're going to make one more HTTP request to that URL that was just provided to us from the previous node. So it's the JSON value from the previous node. We're going to look at the video object and grab the URL property of the video object to get this download URL. We're going to be making an HTTP GET request in order to receive that file. And then down below, I did include this response option here where we don't change any of the defaults except for this response format. Make sure that we specify this as a file. And we're just going to put this output in the field called data. And so we see this data here. We see that we have this 5.21 megabyte video file that can be viewed or downloaded. So that's perfect. That means we received this MP4 file from FAL AI. We have it in n8n and are able to use that in this data field for further processing. So once that clip's generated, the last thing to do here is to actually upload this video into Google Drive. And so very simple to do this. We're going to use our connected Google Drive account. We're going to use the file resource. We're going to upload this file with the upload operation. And if you remember, we have that data field from before that we're receiving and are going to upload into the folder we specify. So I just connected my drive here and I gave it a URL. So we can see that we have all of these scenes uploaded from previous runs. That all looks good and is matching what we're expecting. The other thing to call out here is the file name. You can use either the default name that they're generating, but I preferred to, name this matching more closely to which scene we're currently processing. Since we are going to be looping over each of the 8 scenes we need to generate, I thought an easy way to name these files would just be scene underscore followed by the run index of this node. So how many times this node has been executed in the greater scope of the full n8n execution. And so since we're on, for this example, the last clip here, our file is going to be named scene_8.mp4, and that's just a bit easier for us to read and stitch together when it comes time to edit that final video. So that's all there is to it. So like I said before, this process for all of these nodes that are highlighted here are going to run for every single script we've built out and passed in on this loop. So this will take some time, but with this polling mechanism set up, you're going to be able to avoid errors when this runs end to end. Finally, the last thing that happens here is going to be on the done branch of our loop, where we aggregate out and combine all 8 of these items into one, and then just build up a nice final message here, letting us know in Slack that the video generation has been completed with a title, the concept that it's about, and a link to the Google Drive where everything's been uploaded. So now we got those files uploaded, we can either pass it off to our editor or do some further processing, like using JSON to video API to stitch those together even further if we want to.
All right, before you go, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Seriously, do it, because we're gonna be breaking down all of the AI automations that we use to run all of our businesses. They're super helpful, and we're gonna break down exactly how we do them on this YouTube channel. So make sure to like and then subscribe, and then you'll get notified when we publish new workflows that can make your businesses run 20 times more efficiently, just like we're seeing here at the recap and the other businesses that we're running. The other item is join our school community for free. The link's in the description. You'll be able to get this template, this automation that we just ran through in this video, completely for free. You can go to school and navigate to the video that you want, and then you can download the JSON output for the n8n automation. With that, you can upload it into your n8n, clone it, and then tune it for your business and your use cases. So like and subscribe, join our free community to get this automation for yourself, and we'll see you in the next video.